Well, it's been a while, and there hasn't been much going on because I haven't been by the boat in a couple of months, frankly. Summertime, family, travel, that kind of thing. But I'm back at it. It's now the middle of September, and some news. I got a new spot. I got new neighbors, more or less, and a new part of the same marina, just a different section. What happened was I found out just a couple of weeks ago that they were essentially forcibly moving us to this location so they could rebuild the docks where I was previously, and that's fine. This is a nice location. The docks are in good shape. This finger that I'm against here is a lot wider than it is, and it's more stable, so that definitely is something nice. I'm sorry I didn't film more of the adventure of moving the boat, and it was a little bit of an adventure because I have a new outboard. I went through, the last video was about me redoing the carburetor in that Mercury. That didn't prove successful. I was going to dig back into it, but because of the diagnosis of a weak spark, I dove into that instead. And the long and the short of it is, after I went through some voltage measurements and some resistance measurements, I lost spark entirely. Now, I don't know what I did to mess that up because the motor was running, but spark was lost completely, and I just decided that I didn't want to start out with an outboard that I simply couldn't trust. I can't imagine what I did to make a mess of that, but I didn't give it any more thought. I decided at that point I was just going to go ahead and get rid of it. I sold it off for relatively cheap on Craigslist here locally. Had it sold within a few days of posting the notice, and that same day that I decided to sell it, I ordered this Tohatsu. Oops. Wow, nice big fish just jumped right there. I look like a nice big trout. I don't know if they're in this channel or not, but it was a big fish. Anyway, so I bought this. It's brand new. I ordered from a local marine services company, and I picked it up this morning. And the cool thing is that it's only 60 pounds. I think fully wet, it's 60 pounds. And the Mercury Bigfoot, the 9.9 Bigfoot, was 125. I just brought the stern around toward the dock and muscled it on. It was easy, no back strain. Now, I had to install the outboard because I had to move the boat. So the marina here sent me a letter along with all of my other slipmates down in that part of the marina and told us we all had to move. And we all had to move to an upstream part of the marina where I am now. So the problem with the old outboard was a real problem because now I had no spark and I couldn't really trust in it. They offered to move the boat for me. They were going to do that if I didn't move it before the end of this month. I don't want them to move my boat. I want to move my boat. So that was the other thing. Once I lost spark and all these, these things with the lack of parts for that Mercury, I just said, okay, we'll go ahead and buy this. So I installed the outboard this morning after picking it up this morning from the marine services company here down the road. And there's a break-in period. It's a brand new engine, so I had to let it sit and idle for 10 minutes. It probably actually idled for more like 20, 25 minutes. Then after a while, I put it in gear, and I gave it a little bit more gas in gear just to go ahead and spend more time. And then I finally decided that, at least initially, it was okay to move the boat. Now, I'm still, break-in is 10 hours, and I'm probably only an hour and a half into that, give or take, somewhere in that neighborhood. But I only had to move it a few hundred yards upstream, but I just was real gentle on it. Virtually no gas. It was beyond idle. Certainly, I gave it a little bit more than that, but I think that I could go at half throttle, and I don't even think I hit that. Luckily, the current right now, this time of year, like I said, September, is really minimal. So I wasn't fighting anything. I could run the engine real soft, and so here we are though. We're at our new spot. Okay, well, more about this outboard. It's only 6 horses. It is a SailPro, so that means there's an extra long shaft, and there is a charge component. I can help charge the battery to keep the battery up. I've got extra wires for that came from the factory. It's only 6 horses. It's not meant for a 9,000 pound, 30-foot sailboat. However, I really need it temporary to get me in and out of marinas, and at least in one time before the strong, this is in my head and at least this is the plan, one time before the spring runoff occurs, it needs to get me from here up the channel and up the Columbia River. And I don't know how long it's going to take me, but probably a couple hours with this smaller outboard. But if I can move the boat, even if it takes me all day, and it might, but if I can move the boat with a smaller engine, then I'll be okay. I just want it to get me to that next location. This, of course, is after I take the mast down. I'm going to take that mast down, redo the standing rigging, a knee in the stern, etc., etc. I said this in an earlier video. Once I get that work done, put the mast back up, and then move the boat upstream. And at least the people I bought it from thought that the 6-horse would do it slowly, but I don't care about speed. It's just a matter. And the thing is that it saved me probably a little bit more than $1,000 to go with a 6 horsepower rather than a 9.9 horsepower. And so that was a huge consideration. Like I said, if it's got to give me a day, I got to burn a day taking this thing upstream because I've got a underpowered outboard, and I'm not too terribly worried about that. It's nice just to know that I've got a working outboard and I don't have to worry about it, and it seems to work really well. I will say, and I've got my new spot, and I've already talked to several of my neighbors who I knew from the old spot. They're all moving up this way just about. And one of the women here in the marina who I've gotten to come to know at the old location invited me for dinner tonight. So I get some company and a meal, which is really welcome. I'm gonna get some beer. She's a beer drinker too, so that's just fine. So here's something I didn't show. I didn't pull the video. I didn't pull the GoPro out for this, but I arrived last night, and like I said, I haven't been here in 2 months. Yeah, it's still a complete mess. That's fine. We're gonna get to work on the interior here before too long. But I always look at the bilge if I'm not here often, and I haven't been here 2 months. So I looked in the bilge, and the battery was sitting in about 6 inches of water. Now it didn't reach the terminals. The battery is fine. It's actually still charged just below 13. I'll probably put a charger on it here when I go out to dinner tonight. But I had I used a manual pump because the bilge pump isn't hooked up. It's not powered. That's another thing I've got to deal with. But right now it's all manual. So anyways, but I pumped close to 30 gallons out of the bilge into a 5-gallon bucket, and took several trips to the marina's toilet to dump the bilge water. The bilge water wasn't real pretty. I'm not going to dump it into the marina directly, so I put it in the toilet. But yeah, I pumped between 25 and 30 gallons out of here. Looking around the interior, the cabin space, including the V-berth, all seems dry. Like, I've got bedding in here. I've got this bedding in here that I've had for a while. This cushion was down. You know, everything looked fairly dry in here. Where it's coming from is from these cockpit lockers in the lazarette. They are leaking. This is also leaking. This does go internal, but it wasn't that bad. It was definitely damp below, but it I won't open it. That needs to be replaced desperately. The worst part is likely this lazarette hatch, and I'm sure I've showed this to you before, but you know, you've got holes directly down into the lazarette. I'm already starting on a mold for this lazarette hatch. That's primary because that's the worst off. Now, what we do is measure 2 feet out. And I guess I'll measure from that stud. And 2 feet up. Okay. Now, what I'll do, so I'm going to measure between them. It's not the precision I was kind of hoping for, but we got 33, maybe 33 and an eighth. Okay, so 33 and an eighth, remember that. The reason I just climbed the mast was to determine the exact angle that the starboard side spreader makes with the mast. And because the starboard side spreader, it looks like it's the best position. It's well secured to both the mast and the starboard shroud. And I want to determine what that angle is so that when I go, let me back up, the port side spreader moves. It's not well secured to the port side shroud. And so by getting this measurement, I can extrapolate, I can put that in and make, when I bring the mast down, make the port side spreader the same angle to the mast on the port side, of course. And then have a symmetrical setup, which is ideal. So anyway, so I climbed the mast to do that. So, and the thing about that is now I feel like I can call the boatyard and set up an appointment to bring the boat over to take the mast down. I haven't showered in 2 days, and try out the new bathrooms here, which are okay. My new place. The biggest complaint I have about it is the bathrooms are 2.5 times the distance away from my slip. You know, in the middle of the night, that's a long walk, and when it comes winter time, that walk is going to get really excruciating. Okay, life could be worse, but it's got to be a couple 100 yards at least. Here is the walk to the bathroom for your viewing pleasure. And finally, we are here. At least they're in good shape. The owner even said these are the best bathrooms in the marina, which is excellent. But as you could see, that was a really long walk. I'm going to see if I can count the steps. To the bathroom, from the old slip to the bathroom, was about 115 paces. I suspect we're going to be better than 350 for this trip. So just note to self, don't wait till the last minute when you got to go. 356 paces from the front door of the bathrooms to the side of my boat. And that's going to get old, frankly, in the winter time.